Hello, thank you for joining us today. I'm Scott Cook, the Communications Director here at the South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs. Today we're going to be talking about home repair and emergency scams. And I kind of wanted to first start with a little example of kind of what we were talking about. In April, we put out a news release just kind of focusing on some of this type of stuff. These were severe storms like thunderstorms and hail that brought some damage to the Rock Hill area, and there were kind of questions about if people were legitimate contractors or scammers. So this is kind of some of the type of stuff that we'll be talking about today, just kind of doing your research, avoiding these high pressure sales tactics, things like that. We know hurricane season's coming up June 1st. But again, it's not just hurricane season that these types of things appear, but it's a good kind of reminder for us to focus on these types of things and be prepared beforehand. We're going to talk a lot about kind of planning for emergencies and responding, things that we can do to prevent falling victim to a scam. And really one of the first things that you might want to start doing is reviewing your insurance policy and kind of understanding what's in there and if you have adequate coverage. And you also kind of want to know the difference between replacement costs, cash value, things that are kind of those specific details about your plan. You're going to want to know about your deductibles as well. So if you have property that's damaged or destroyed, you kind of know what your insurance will cover before you need that insurance policy to help you out there. And anytime you have any type of situation like this, you're going to want to contact them as soon as you can to make sure that you're doing everything that your insurance policy specifically requires you to do to use those. And again, just kind of know the procedures that your insurance company will want you to take, and you'll want to do that beforehand. So that way, once you do need them, that you're kind of covered and that you're taking the steps that you need to take and that you're going to kind of understand their rules, their guidelines, and kind of the things that they want from you. And just kind of keep in mind too that flood insurance is not kind of automatically covered in policies. A lot of homeowners insurance renters policies, they don't cover flood insurance, so you have to get a separate insurance to cover that. Kind of the place you might want to go to start that process is floodsmart.gov. Again, that is a FEMA and it's one of their websites. I believe it's FEMA and the National Flood Insurance Program. So you're going to want to take a look over that information there on that link, and if you've downloaded the slides today, you'll be able to click that link and it will take you directly to that FEMA website, and you can kind of learn about the various things that you can do to get that flood coverage in case you're in one of those areas that either floods in severe thunderstorms, or especially if you're along the coast, that type of thing, or an area that just floods in general. I know we've had that problem here in Columbia a few years back, so just something to keep in mind as you're kind of making those plans for this type of situation. And you also want to make sure you keep your records in a safe place. That could be an inventory of your valuables, your electronics, things like that. So you just want to have that visual record of your stuff. You want to keep it, again, in a safe and dry place, so that way in case something does happen and there is storm damage into your home or anything like that, that is somewhere that's going to be protected. And again, you also want to kind of think about taking advantage of technology. You can store a record in the cloud, you can back up data on a USB flash drive, something like that. And you might also kind of want to think about what apps may be available. I know a lot of insurance companies have their own apps. They may have specific things that you can do to document your kind of either not necessarily just your high-end items, but things that you would want replaced or covered by those policies. So they may have something in place on their apps where you can go through. The National Association of Insurance Commissioners also has an inventory app that will kind of help you create that process. I believe it stores photos, barcodes, things like that. So if there is, kind of some kind of emergency or disaster, it will help you kind of take those steps to be able to file your insurance claim. So really kind of take advantage of those things. And again, you'll want to use them now. You don't want to wait until you need that policy to kick in and to cover those things. So again, now is kind of that time to plan, take advantage of that technology and see what processes and things you can do to kind of make that easier. So we'll talk a little bit now about kind of home repair scams and some of the things to kind of watch out with contractors. And again, this This part of this presentation doesn't only apply in emergency. It might be a lot of information that you want to kind of keep in mind anytime you need to use a contractor. But just kind of keep in mind too that when there is an emergency situation, if there's been severe storm, something like that, some contractors will come out. They will come out in person, especially if they see damage at your home. They may be in that area and kind of stop by and just kind of talk with you. Doesn't necessarily mean they're a scammer when they do something like that. Some contractors will do that. Just kind of something to keep in mind. You may also get messages by phone, by mail, things like that. But here's kind of how these scams will work. They'll often have a kind of a discounted deal in some cases where they'll try to say they've got leftover materials from another job. I know seen a lot of our sheriff's departments post about this fairly recently, where they'll say somebody's coming through neighborhoods claiming that they have, either it's leftover stuff for paving a driveway or something like that. They'll say they have this leftover stuff and that they can give you a pretty good deal if you take advantage of this time right now, and you'll get a discounted deal for this leftover material that you can take advantage of. And usually they want you to kind of act quickly. So again, it's that you've got to do this right now. This deal is only available if you're doing it while I'm out here. That's a pretty good sign of possible scam, especially if they were telling you that you have to do it right now, or either the work isn't going to get done, or the price is going to go up dramatically. That's kind of one of those red flags to watch out for. And if they're demanding cash payments or something up front, or to pay it all up front, that's a pretty good sign of scam. A lot of times, we tell people don't pay everything up front. You may have to put a deposit down or something like that, but you don't want to pay the whole fee up front. So you want to be able to say, when you finish the rest of the job, I'll finish the payment, right? So that's just kind of one of those things to keep in mind during these types of situations. It's just kind of know they'll ask for cash and they'll want that payment all at once. So here's kind of a little example of some of the home repair scams that we see. Maybe kind of a situation where somebody, like I said, comes in, doesn't do all the work, or doesn't even start the work sometimes, but they might run off with your money, never make the repairs, right? Or in some cases, they'll do kind of a shoddy job. They'll do, half the work or something that might make it worse. And again, I keep saying that contract work with the concrete pours for driveways and things. Again, I've seen some of our sheriff's departments say that they've had situations where some of these guys will show up, do a driveway, and whatever they've done to it actually ends up kind of making things worse and causing further problems than what was there beforehand. So it's just kind of something to keep in mind, especially if somebody's showing up out of the blue, that you want to kind of double check who they are, who their, what their record is as far as being able to do good work. So that's kind of one of the things that you kind of want to think about. In some cases, they may, even promise a loan to be able to help you to afford these improvements, especially if this is, somebody who's just shown up at your house. Kind of think twice before you take a loan with them, especially to be able to do these type of improvements. You want to kind of think about your financing options and what you would be able to do if the deal goes bad. So you might want to think about using your bank, credit union, something like that, and not really going through the contractor or the person who shows up at your house for this loan to be able to do these home improvements. And you want to take a look at the contract. Kind of, again, in this situation, you kind of realize that the contract you signed may even put a lien on the house for the repair. So really kind of understand what's going on with those contracts and kind of take a look at that. We'll kind of go through some of those tips here in a few minutes, but just kind of think about the various things that could happen when somebody you don't know and you haven't really background or done any research on, kind of the worst case scenarios of what could happen when they might run off with your money, something like that. So what can you do? Again, take your time. It's the biggest piece of advice that we give. Scammers want you to be able to make those quick, pressure-filled situations. So take your time. Really, that's going to help you out in the long run, especially when it's a situation with a contractor or something like that. Again, this promise of getting the work done for you isn't going to just disappear overnight. If they're a legitimate contractor who wants your business, that deal is going to be there in a few days. So again, take your time with this. And if they're asking for just cash or a wire transfer, to be able to pay for these, it's a pretty good sign it's a scam. Again, if you need financing, use a bank or a lender you trust, but kind of think about the ways you're paying. Once you give cash to somebody, obviously they're gone. There's no record of it. So kind of think about the ways that you can pay these contractors and the different things you can do to kind of protect yourself. And again, time is kind of that big factor too. We've got a situation where the Federal Trade Commission has talked to scammers before in the past, and they said kind of they knew right away if somebody was hesitant to do the deal or if they were kind of firm and said, no, I'm not gonna do this. There's people who said no right off the bat. That's usually when scammers kind of backed off and didn't continue to press for this information or this money from them. So they kind of know if you're firm in your answers right away, there's a pretty good sign that you're not going to fall victim to their scam. So just kind of think about that, be positive in yourself and really kind of force your thoughts on this right away. And usually if it's somebody who is a scammer, they'll probably back off and not kind of really press the situation as much. But just kind of read people, kind of understand different ways that they may push these types of situations. But again, time's going to be your biggest factor on this, and just kind of realize you don't have to rush into these decisions, even though you may have repairs that are needed on your home. Just kind of take a time, think about it, and give you a little more tips on kind of some of the things that you can do. Again, you're going to want to check with people that you trust. You might want to ask for recommendations of friends, family members, contractors they've used. I know a lot of times I see people on social media asking, people that they know, people they trust on social media for those kind of things. So that's something you might want to do. Again, just kind of check with people you trust, try to get those recommendations from them on somebody that you can use. And you want to get 3 written estimates anytime you have these major type of repairs. And you just kind of want to take a look at those written estimates, see what they're charging you for, and kind of using that information to make a decision. And again, that's also going to kind of give you that little bit more time to kind of really think about the person you're dealing with and if you do think that they're trustworthy or not. And again, ask for references. You might also want to ask for proof of license. A lot of contractors have to have a license with your city or your county. So you may want to take a look at, what licenses they have with them. They should have something with that if your city or county requires that. They probably have a sticker on their truck or their vehicle that would tell you that, but you can then, take that information to the city or county, double check that they actually have that license to be able to do the work that you're wanting at your house. And again, you may also want to ask them for proof of insurance. Again, that's just going to be able to protect you in case something goes wrong. So those are kind of some big steps that you can take. Those references, proof of license, and then that proof of insurance. We have some pretty good information here on our website that could help you out. You can background a business. It's a section that we have on our page where you can look up licenses with our agency, and you can find those links to other state agencies. You can also search complaints filed with our office to see if a business is somebody that has a large amount of complaints, see how they handled those complaints possibly, and again, just kind of use that information to kind of check to see if it is somebody that you want to give your money to. And kind of one of the more important things you can do is just get everything in writing. You're going to want to, look over everything, make sure you understand it, and you don't want to just take their word for it, right? So you want to make sure both you and the contractor have signed everything. If there's places that are blank, you're going to want to make sure that they've signed it as well. And again, don't start work until you have that signed contract. Again, that's just going to protect you, and it also protects the business, right? So if something goes wrong, you don't have a contract, it's your word against theirs, and it can get kind of ugly. So you want to have that written contract. And it's going to give you a little bit of protection to be able to kind of make sure things go the way that you want it to go. And it also kind of helps protect the business too. So what should you never do? Again, send cash, we said that, wire money. Don't buy gift cards for a contractor. That's just kind of not a normal way that contractors are going to want to be paid, right? So you don't want to do gift cards, you don't want to do in cryptocurrency. Those are kind of big signs that we tell folks all the time. Anytime somebody's demanding those kind of untraceable forms of payment, you might want to take a step back and kind of really look at the situation. So cash, wire transfer, gift card, cryptocurrency, kind of keep that in mind anytime that somebody's demanding those types of payments that are hard to trace and hard to get back. Kind of another situation that can come from some of these emergency type things and damage, especially if it's a storm, something like that, or some of these kind of fake insurance claims, and it may come from a phone call or email, something like that. But basically the scammer is going to pretend to be the insurance company or claim to be the insurance company, and they may try to get information about your policy or your claim. Really, the big advice for that is just don't give information out to people who are calling you out of the blue. You're going to want to hang up, call your agency or your insurance provider directly. Use those phone numbers on your accounts or on your statements or on their, their customer service, probably on their website. They've got those numbers. Really kind of rely on that information. And especially if it's an emergency where there's been damage to your home and it is covered by insurance, you've probably dealt with that person who's reviewing your claim a good bit. I know I've had a tree fall on part of my home, and by the time the situation was done, I can't tell you how many times I had to call and speak to that same adjuster, that person who was over my account. It was kind of that person who was, that go between some of the companies that were out doing work at my house. So, just kind of know that eventually you're going to have that relationship. It's probably going to be that same person calling you, or same one or two people calling you from the insurance company. So just kind of keep that in mind. Again, if you have any doubts, always hang up and call those numbers that you have on your policy account. Usually those numbers are on the back of a card, or if you have their app, those numbers are listed there, and they've probably given you a policy number or a claim number that you can use to kind of verify that information. So again, kind of rely on those contacts that you've made and not just those kind of random phone calls that would come in. We'll kind of get into a little bit more about some of these other emergency scams now. I know we've kind of talked a little bit about things with your home, but during times of emergencies, especially if there's hurricanes, big storms, scammers will use these situations to imposter people, and they're going to use government agencies, businesses. So again, that might be an insurance company, something like that, could be a charity, but they're going to use those well-known names, people that you typically trust. They're going to try to use those names to get information or to get money from you. And they know if they use names of big name companies or government agencies that you might be hearing on the news, they know that you're kind of more likely to trust them. And they may spoof this information basically any way they can. They can be fake profiles on social media. They may be phone calls. They may be emails, text messages. So really any way that you communicate, scammers communicate, they're going to try to use this information to be able to trick you, and they're going to pretend to be people that they're not. And one of the more common ones they use is FEMA. So it's just kind of important to know before there's any type of emergency that FEMA doesn't charge for an application fee. That's one of the things that scammers will try to do. They'll tell you that you've got to pay them in order to put in this application. So just kind of know that's never going to happen. And inspectors who come out with FEMA, they're not going to ask you for your social security number. That's one of those things that scammers do, right? They want that personal information from you so they can use it, to open up fake accounts or do other things. So just kind of know those FEMA inspectors aren't going to ask you for that type of information when they're out and about. And again, if somebody wants to, claim that they're needing money from you in order to qualify for FEMA funds, that's a scam. You're not going to pay money to get money from FEMA. So anytime anybody's demanding money and they're claiming to be from FEMA, just kind of know that's a scam. And utility scams are something that may also kind of follow these types of situations. We did a presentation on this just the other week. I think it was last week, where we just did an entire thing on utility scams. Just one of the important things to know is that your utilities aren't going to ask you for bank account information to reimburse you for any time that power has gone out. That's just not how they work. They might credit you something on your account or on your bill, but they're not just going to say, we need your information so we can give you money. They've already got those accounts in most situations. They probably already got, either your banking account, your credit card, or however you normally pay each month. So just know they're not going to call you out of the blue and ask for that money in order to give you money, because of a loss of service. And again, they may claim there's some type of system error. They need to get all kinds of personal information from you before they restore service. Again, that's kind of not how utilities work, especially during an emergency. They're more interested in just getting everybody restored. So they're not going to be calling you or having somebody come to your door and ask for all your personal information in order to get service back up. They're just going to be interested in getting service restored to everybody in those types of situations. Again, they're not going to threaten you to cut off your utilities until you pay. Again, that's just not how utilities work. There are rules and laws that they have to follow. They have to give notices to you before power is shut off anytime. So usually there's 2 notices with that you would receive, and you probably have, some kind of idea beforehand that you haven't paid that bill. So just kind of know any of these threats to turn off your utilities are scams. And again, real utilities aren't going to ask for gift cards, cryptocurrency, wire transfers. Those, again, are those types of payment methods that we talk about all the time that just should be red flags anytime you hear those demands for those types of payments. The big thing with kind of any of these types of scams that are going on is anytime there's somebody who calls and makes you feel uncomfortable, you're really not sure about if they need the information that they're asking for, just hang up. You definitely do not give out insurance, bank information to these types of calls. That's kind of one of those key warning flags. They're asking for these account numbers, things like that. They probably already have it, so don't give those out to somebody that just calls out of the blue. And when possible, you can initiate contact using information on, again, official websites or those apps that, your utilities or these companies may have. You're going to want to use that information that you know is real. Don't use the phone number that maybe called you earlier that day. Go to their website, look on your bills, look on your agreements with your insurance company, things like that. You want to use those phone numbers to reach out on your own. And be careful about charities, right? So, a lot of times after, especially some of these big storms, if it's hurricanes or even some of these thunderstorms and tornadoes that we've had, in the past week or so out west of us, some of these charity scams can kind of start to pop up. So we'll just kind of give you a little bit of quick information about those types of things. Again, scammers kind of know that people are generally good people and want to help whenever there's a time of need. So just kind of keep in mind that scammers do take advantage, unfortunately, of these types of situations. You're not going to want to give out personal information to people soliciting donation. Really, there's no reason that they would need all kinds of personal information about you. So just kind of think about that as you're donating. Solicitations on social media, just kind of know that not everything on social media is real, right? You don't really necessarily know if the people on social media are who they say they are. Some of the crowdfunding sites, things like that. You just really want to kind of know who you're giving to and know that they are a legitimate, real person before giving. So you kind of want to take those things with a grain of salt when you're looking at social media and just kind of maybe find out a little bit more about the situation or the person asking for money if you're kind of considering those types of things. Anytime somebody's pressuring you, that's a pretty big warning sign as well. And again, if you want to make the most of your money, donate to trusted, well-known charities. That's going to be kind of your best defense against scammers. Kind of stick to those charities that you already know are doing good work. Stick with them. Don't donate by, again, cash, gift cards, cryptocurrency, wire transfers. Those are kind of those warning signs, again, that you may or may not be dealing with the scammer. And this is a pretty good link that we give out to folks as well. It's the Secretary of State's website, and you can click on that to see if the charity is registered in South Carolina. They also have a phone number there on the screen that you can call. And basically that's going to be able to help you do a little bit of research to make sure that they're, who they say they are, that they're a legitimate charity that's operating in our state. And again, you'll want to kind of check things out before you donate, right? So you'll want to search the charity possibly online. You can go to, whatever search engine you use, put the name of that charity and search engine, just put the word scam after it. You might want to do the same thing, put complaint after the name, and just kind of see what comes up, what other people are saying. And you can also look, see where the money is going, how it'll be used. Most of those charities will be glad to tell you, how all their resources are used, how they're using that money. And again, don't give out personal information, especially when you're getting those calls out of the blue. That personal information is as good as money to them, and it can really put you at risk. So just kind of know that, unsolicited calls, emails, social media, or text messages, asking for personal information when you're donating, just really kind of take that in mind. And another type of scam that sometimes pops up during these emergency situations might be rental listings. Basically, there's a couple of different ways that scammers can do that. They can hijack a rental listing, which is basically they can either take legitimate posts, copy it, post it somewhere else or multiple places a lot of times. So then you're basically using a fake rental listing whenever you think you're trying to find a real place. So just kind of keep that in mind. Again, they may list properties for rent that aren't available, right? So they may take if it's an apartment or a home in some situations, they may just randomly put somebody else's property that they found information about. They may list that on some website, as being available. So really kind of keep that in mind. You can, anytime somebody's asking about security deposits or rent before you've even seen the place or before you've signed a lease, those are kind of pretty big warning signs. Again, you might want to just kind of do some research on your own about any of these properties that are listed online. You can usually kind of search the names of the property or the website. If it's a company name, you can search those. And again, kind of do those same tricks, right? Search for the name of the property or the rental group or whatever, put the word complaint, put the word scam after it, and just kind of do those searches to see what comes up. In some cases, you may even want to look kind of your county property tax office and kind of see if all the information that they list, a lot of those are online, but you can look to see if that information matches up to what the listing online actually says. And again, when we talk about scams, we know kind of the situations and the stories that they use kind of change, and even kind of a lot of the nuances of it kind of change frequently, but there are some kind of common red flags that involve kind of every type of scam. And one of the big ones that we kind of talked about today is just kind of that idea that they pretend to be somebody that you know and that you trust. And they know, if you already recognize those names, you're more likely to trust them and more likely to hand over money or information when they're calling. I say calling, they could be emailing or texting you too. But again, a lot of times scammers will say there's a big problem to have. Some cases they'll talk about a prize or kind of those discounts, maybe in the contractor situation, or they'll say, if you do this now, you get this kind of a discount or this, there's a reward in for it for you acting right now, right? When there's a problem, they know that you're kind of more likely to react then and there to solve that problem. So that's kind of why they use those promises of resolving a problem or giving you something. They know if you're in need that you're more likely to do it right then and there. And again, they're trying to pressure you to act immediately. They know if you've got time to think about the situation, that you're less likely to give them money or less likely to give them that information that they want. So that's kind of, again, that kind of immediacy that they say you've got to do this here and now. And they don't want you to think about it. They don't want you to stop and talk to somebody about it. So, they kind of know once you've taken a few minutes to think about things, you're probably not going to give them that information or that money. So anytime somebody's telling you to do something right then and there, kind of think about it, take a step back. And again, we've talked about this before in the presentation, but they're going to say you've got to pay in a specific way. So again, it's those prepaid debit cards, gift cards, cryptocurrency, money transfers. Anytime anybody's telling you you have to pay in a specific way, and it's one of those kind of forms that are hard to trace or as good as cash, that's kind of those things that scammers like, right? So they love gift cards, cryptocurrency, prepaid debit cards, those types of things. And once you give that information away, they can cash those things out pretty quickly, and it can be hard to even kind of figure out where that money went and what's been going on with it. So just kind of know that scammers prefer those types of payments. And again, we like to give you kind of tools that you can use to protect yourself, to protect your information. We always talk about multi-factor authentication. If you're not using it on your financial accounts and your emails and social media, pretty much any kind of account that you can establish with multi-factor authentication, that's a great tool that you can use to protect it. The FBI recommends two-factor is kind of the biggest thing you can do to protect all your information, because if somebody's got that password, the kind of extra step that you would have to take to get into those accounts, it kind of makes it twice as harder for somebody to do that. And it can be something you have like a passcode, or it can be something you are like a fingerprint or face scan. We've got a little graphic here, it kind of gives you a little example of that. So again, it could be a fingerprint on your phone, be face scan on your phone to get into accounts, or sometimes they'll send you a text message where you've got to enter in, 4-digit code or whatever before you get into that account. So these are all really great tools. You also have like things on your smartphone that will send you a little app update, or say, is this you? Yes, no, things like that. But really using those to protect your accounts is going to be a great tool to be able to keep other people out. And you can set up financial alerts on your banking accounts, things like that. That's another great tool. You can set up kind of those threshold amounts. So if a certain dollar amount shows up on your bank, your credit card or your debit card, you might get a text message telling you that that purchase has been made. And that would be kind of a good tool to help you kind of challenge those things if it wasn't you that did them, right? So it kind of lets you know right away that something's going on, that you need to take an action. In some of these cases, they'll let you know too if an unknown device, something that you haven't used before, tries to sign into an account, it'll let you know as well. And again, those "is this you" alerts are pretty good to use, where if something's going on, you can say, yes, it is me, or no, it's not. In bank or financial institution, whoever, they can kind of take steps right then and there to be able to stop somebody from accessing your information or your accounts. And a lot of times credit cards will set up things for you, or kind of help you out with being able to set up things that will notify you if there's been changes with your credit report. So that might be something that's helpful as well. And speaking of credit reports, annualcreditreport.com is a site that we tell people to use to get their free credit report. You can get one every week right now from the 3 major credit reporting agencies, TransUnion, Equifax, Experian. During the pandemic, they started doing these once every week. You probably don't need to check it that often, but check it regularly. And you're going to want to make sure that all the information in it is accurate, and that it's actually belongs to you, right? That's kind of the important part, that everything on it is something that you've done. You don't want, accounts that are, loans from somebody else opening up a car loan, or, credit card, something like that showing up on there. So you're going to want to look at everything, make sure it's accurate, look at all the addresses listed, any emails or phone numbers, things like that as well, and just kind of make sure everything on it belongs to you. Annualcreditreport.com is a site we recommend because it's authorized by federal law. So there's steps that they have to take that they're required by federal law to be able to provide you information for free. Again, it used to be once a year that you could get it for free, but now every week you can get a free credit report from the 3 major credit reporting agencies. And if you find information that may or not belong to you, you might want to consider a fraud alert on your credit reports. You just contact one of the major credit reporting agencies, and they'll kind of notify the other ones. It goes in effect for a year. It's just going to make sure that businesses take additional steps to verify that it's you before they, open up new accounts, things like that. Again, you just call one of the credit reporting agencies, and they'll help you with that. And if it continues, you can expand that past that initial year. The thing that I like to refer people to, kind of tell them that this is a great tool to protect your accounts, is the credit freeze. So you're going to want to establish this with each of the 3 major credit reporting agencies. And it's basically going to stop people from either accessing your credit report or opening new accounts. So it's really great tool to, if you're an identity theft victim, or if you, have some of your information in a security breach, something like that, it's going to protect your account. So if you go in and you put the freeze in place, it's going to stop other people from opening up new credit cards, taking out loans in your names, those types of things. And if you find yourself in a situation where you need to use your credit, you can then just go onto their websites or give them a call. and you'll be able to lift that for whatever time you need. I know when I needed to buy a car, I just put that, I had that freeze in place already, but I was able to lift it for just that, that weekend that I was out looking for new cars. So by the time I'd already made that purchase, gotten that car loan, that freeze went back into place and was protecting my accounts. Again, it would kind of help you prevent other people from using it. So you just kind of lift it whenever that you need to use your credit, and then you can then put that freeze back in place whenever you want to protect it. Again, that's going to just kind of protect you and prevent those new accounts from being opening in your name. And you'll need to do that with each of the 3 major credit reporting agencies. You can do that on the website, or you can give them a call. It's pretty fast and pretty easy to do. And if you think you're the victim of identity theft, you can give us a call, or you can go to our website, again, consumer.sc.gov. Again, we do have an identity theft unit who will go through our toolkit with you, and they'll just kind of look at things that you might need to do to protect your account. Again, some of that's going to be looking at your credit report, thinking about the security freeze and the fraud alert and that type of stuff. And they'll kind of walk you through that process, be able to help you file an identity theft report to be able to help protect your information, challenge any accounts that may have been open in your name, that type of stuff. So again, they've got that kind of toolkit where they've got a little checklist that they can go through with you and kind of walk you through that process. Again, we appreciate you being with us this week. We hope you'll join us for another Wednesday webinar, and hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you.